Welcome, ladies and gents, into the analysis video for DuckTales' Season 2, Episode 11, The Golden Spear. And as some of you may have already noticed, I basically skipped Episode 10. The episode was meh. But do not fret, because I'm still going to be going over it regardless, so I decided to do the responsible thing and combine the two episodes together. Because I refuse to wait on this particular Della episode any longer. Within the episode 87-cent solution, Scrooge jumps into the money bin, only this time noticing that exactly 87 cents out of his entire billions of dollars worth of gold is gone. Literally. So they go on an almost never-ending search for the culprit responsible, even including Magica Dispel, who apparently hasn't been located since the Season 1's finale. Wonder if she's been scheming anything else lately. Another main suspect for the outrageous crime was none other than Flintheart Glomgold, the second richest in Youngberg, but gradually became number one for a short period of time after Scrooge seemingly became less and less sane over time, supposedly seeing random events occurring while no one else seems to see it, having random moments of itchiness, sleep deprivation, going on a live broadcast to spread the insane news about his 87 cents missing, and even upgrades his security around the mansion. And lo and behold, he not only loses most of his money in the process, but also nearly loses his family's trust after witnessing his somewhat irrational behavior. And they were all points that coincidentally marked off all of the symptoms for gold fever, which by the way is a reference to an actual disease within the original DuckTales series. However, this time, not exactly. Scrooge refuses to back down from his beliefs in seeing this imaginative being, and so he seemingly jumps into the gold bin and dies.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there.
Oh yeah, and that's not me. This actually happened within the episode. I am not editing the music included in this scene. As it turned out, Scrooge faked his very own death and his entire family was in on it, except Donald, who legitimately believed he died.
I must do that!
You see, it's funny because Scrooge is extremely old. Anyways, we find out that Flintheart managed to steal a time-stopping device that fell from out of a cart that included many items of science waste. Something that was shown from the very beginning due to Scrooge hitting it with his cane. So Flintheart dumbfoundingly admits this in front of everyone in attendance to the fake funeral after being tempted to do so, after being deliberately called a genius for plotting Scrooge's demise so well. But just the simple fact that he takes the bait instantly makes it all the more shameful for him, since he immediately regrets it and Scrooge appears only to prove him wrong. So if it wasn't for Scrooge listening to his family before nearly jumping into the bin at that moment, he probably wouldn't have had the chance to have his family help him out pull off his wise revenge plot. I mean, dude, you could have had at least a better way to place the fake page inside of Huey's woodchuck journal. You literally had all the time in the world to figure that part out. The episode ends with Glomgold and Scrooge fighting it out and almost falling out of a window. That is until Miss Beakley pulls out a ladder to save Scrooge and leave Glomgold behind, since, you know, they were fighting over the time-stopping device. Scrooge then gets the best of Flintheart by getting his 87 cents back and taunts him by wetting his glasses. Now let's get into that Della episode, shall we? It begins with Penumbra once more spying on Della like before in the episode Whatever Happened to Della Duck, still suspicious of her despite Della making her attempts of befriending her. While on the other hand, Della seeing Penumbra as quite the opposite and is a person that reminds her of her brother Donald, which makes sense due to their boisterous and somewhat violent behavior every now and then. But even through all of that, deep down inside, they have a pure heart. Della makes it inside of her work area where we see the broadcast of the triplets alongside with Scrooge on the news after the defeat of Magica, only for some reason the setup seems to be different as opposed to before. The television antenna and what I believe is a red signal receiver is nowhere to be seen. And of course, Della isn't seen touching the screen after witnessing her boys for the first time or wearing her goggles when first entering the room. Another minuscule detail is the fact that the colors off of the digital box are off, but I'm sure that was just a simple background design error. But the point is, this could have just been a simple recording she made as a reminder of hope for her. It then cuts back to Earth where we see Donald attempting to avoid conflicting scenarios simply because his doctor reveals to him that his balding issue is consistently because of him being in stressful environments. And well, this is a cartoon, including Donald Duck. You should know what happens next. The more he tries to get rest and relaxation, the more catastrophic everything around him becomes. That includes a moment where some random magic goat is discovered and tales of riches beyond comprehension, followed by sending everyone through a portal. I mean, how unlucky is that? Going back to Della's side of the story, the days get closer and closer to the moment when she is able to travel back to Earth, since gold is a massive everyday use for the moon dwellers. Over time, Della begins to befriend multiple people on the moon, telling them stories of adventure and the many wonderful things only on Earth. This of course makes Penumbra furious and refuses to let Della to make it sound as if the moon is inferior in comparison to the Earth, which is, if you want to be technical, the same giant rock that orbits around the Earth, so the Earth is better. Lunaris, however, the king of the moon citizens, seems to be of great help in making sure that Penumbra doesn't nearly kill Della multiple times throughout the episode, and is even shown giving Penumbra advice on instead showing her compassion, especially since Della obviously isn't a threat. The people who listen to Della's experiences also then assist her on building the new and improved Spear of Selene, and are even so fascinated by her many tales that they too want to join her on her quest. She at first says no since they wouldn't be able to fit in, but then feels bad after Penumbra mocks her by saying that Della isn't as great as a noble hero as she claims to be, which changes her mind. So she instead tells them to pack their bags and get ready for Earth the very next day. That is until later on within the episode, Penumbra sneaks her way to the entrance of the ship in the middle of the night, places Della by it, and activates the emergency launch sequence so that Della has no choice but to keep going despite her promise to the people. And that same switch was something that Lunaris had mentioned to Penumbra a bit earlier in the episode, knowing of her jealousy and high possibility of doing this exact thing. It's even proven moments later that this was indeed his plan after all. He shows up just seconds later only to coincidentally ask for Della's blueprints on how to construct the Spear of Selene, so that they too may have the opportunity to build their very own ships and visit Earth. But once Della is launched, Lunaris shoots himself in the arm in order to make it look as if Della betrayed the moon dwellers and supposedly didn't commit to her word. He even goes as far as saying that he staged the whole idea so that people had something to fight for, and false motivation to invade the Earth would help his mission on conquering it, since the original ruler before him, his father, was always too afraid of sending his people on the planet, fully aware of any potential threats. Finally, we have a moment from Penumbra actually feeling some sort of guilt for her actions and what she's caused for both Della and the rest of the Earth, realizing that in the end, it was true that Della was the saint of the situation and that they were the true villains. The beautiful lie that she once believed of her proud race was instantly crushed. We're then shown what's happening with Donald and the gang. Everyone teams up to surprise Donald with a vacation trip after noticing just how much they stressed him out. So Donald makes his way to the bus stop for his relaxing vacation, but notices a spaceship which immediately tells him that Della successfully made it back onto Earth. And let me tell ya, I was even shocked for it to happen in this one episode. But then, Donald does one of the dumbest mistakes in history and accidentally presses a button for launch sequence while in the middle of searching for Della. However, the scene clearly depicts him accidentally pressing a regular button as opposed to the emergency switch from before, so what do we know? Perhaps he'll make it back sooner than we expected. The episode ends with Della at the front of the mansion gate, and boy do I have to say, does this mean that the moon dwellers are the main baddies for this season's finale? If so, that would be pretty interesting. There's the fact that it's a bunch of moon people collectively invading Earth. Also, I wonder how that would turn out. How would they find Della for false revenge? I mean, Earth is pretty big. Is Donald gonna be the dead giveaway due to his ship leaving Earth? Also, where are villains like Mark Beeks? I guess he stopped being a real pain since towards the end of season 1, but I still want to see this guy's face get pummeled. But as usual, give this video a like if you still haven't, and subscribe if you still haven't as well. Thank you all for all of your support. There are going to be some very special videos coming on soon, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace!